Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I'm going to be talking about empowerment evaluation, searching for self-determination for all of us. We all evaluate. You're buying a new car, you're finding a mate, you're leaving a mate, they're leaving you. It's all evaluation that you use for decision making. I evaluate large-scale projects like the Accelerated School Project with Hank Levin at Stanford. It's where kids, teachers, parents are reclaiming public education so it drives in the right direction for them. I also work in other areas that are funded by the Department of Education with kids that are very self-determined, but they have disabilities. And here's just an interesting interview I had with one of the kids that sort of guided my thinking towards empowerment evaluation. She was put in a lower level math class. I was interviewing her in her home. She's in a wheelchair. And she explained this whole process of what had happened, where the schools had equated physical disability with cognitive disability, which is wrong and unfortunately common. Anyway, she's in the class, and she's bored to death, and she hates it. And she then, during recess, hangs out with the other kids that are in the upper level math class. One day, she was so frustrated, so upset, that she decided, heck with this, I'm going to get in my wheelchair and hide behind them and go right into that class. And she did. And she was a gifted child. She belonged there. I consider that gutsy self-determination. Well, I had all these projects in my mind, and they had the same common thread of self-determination running through them. So I started putting them together at night, and sure enough, in the morning, they still made sense. I had something. It was empowerment evaluation. So I was then shortly invited to South Africa to be part of the transition government with the anti-apartheid peace movement. We worked there to transform how things were working. We used empowerment evaluation in squatter settlements and in townships, working on health concerns from HIV, diabetes, hypertension, you name it. The shocker, it worked. I thought, this is fantastic. I'm going to shout to the world about this. This is great. I was the president of the American Evaluation Association, so I thought, what a better venue. Talk to them about it, right? So I wanted to make it fancy. I got 2 Nobel laureates to speak. Ken Arrow from Stanford, he spoke about, because I talked to him about it, of course, and he introduced part of it as a plenary. And then I had the second Nobel laureate, he's actually a double Nobel laureate, come and speak about it. But before I introduce you to him, I should say, what I'm going to be talking about briefly highlights the role of inclusion as a guiding principle in empowerment evaluation. But let me introduce him. This was Dr. Albert Einstein. I know. Didn't he die quite a few years ago? Yep. I hired an actor. He's a motivational speaker, worked for Motorola, all these different companies, and he was brilliant. The room was packed, the auditorium. People were out into the hallways. It was fantastic. Doing a wonderful job. And then suddenly in the middle, you couldn't hear what he was saying. The remote mic started breaking down. But oh my gosh, no one could hear what's going on. But I saw there was a crack in the plastic. I knew if I went right to it and grabbed it, and sure I did, it connected the battery. He could speak perfectly to everyone, no problem. It doesn't end there. Unfortunately, he's still Einstein. He's moving around all over the place like this, talking like Einstein did. I'm on his hips behind him, dancing behind him. I know, no one. So I'm thinking to myself, if I let go, they won't understand because they've read the words like that. If I hold on, they're just watching me dance around him. One person in this massive packed auditorium comes forward with an old-fashioned microphone cord. Save the day. Inclusion, one of the guiding principles of empowerment evaluation. Well, now it's my turn, because I'm now the president. I get to say something. So I started defining empowerment evaluation. It's very simple. It's the use of evaluation concepts, techniques, and findings to foster improvement and self-determination. It's not a neutral experiment. The kids succeeded here in evaluation. Oh, you failed. But you're still in school. You have to do something with these kids. The aim is to then improve and help them become more self-determined. We share the tools. We help them understand how to make it part of your planning and management. It increases the probability of success. No guarantees in life, but it can increase the probability. And I said, I have 2 hours to speak about theory. Is that right? I'm kidding, I know. I saw your eyes. I'll be brief. The theory that really drives empowerment evaluation is process use. Process use is the more you buy into and do the evaluation yourself, the more you can find it credible. Why? They're yours. They conduct it, they own it, they act on it. 2 more theories, I promise that's it. The theory of action is really just the ideal aspirations. In other words, equity, fairness, all the stuff we believe in over here. But the theory of use is the actual behavior. They don't usually match. Our job is to try to mind the gap and close the gap so people are walking their talk. This is a very important part of empowerment evaluation. We're talking so far about normal evaluation, except they're going to turn it upside down. You're in charge. I'm just a coach and facilitator. Now, I had a lot of flack when I said that. Not just then, but then even afterwards. They said, Dave, you're a professional. You're an adult. You don't rely on a coach. You do stuff on your own. I thought, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it makes some sense. I went home and went, wait a minute. My daughter plays volleyball. She has a coach. I went back to the gym because I didn't want to ruin my back. I got a coach. We have financial advisors who are coaches. You think you're going to let all my med students just do whatever they want and just operate on people and not have a mentor or coach? Of course. We all have them in everyday life. Why not in evaluation? Let me shape this a little bit more so you get a feel for the coach role. In the Oakland Public School System, they invited us to help them out. The mandate from the superintendent was to reduce the dropout rate. Well, nurses are getting fired left and right. Why? They don't really contribute to that directly. So they said, David, as long as you're over there, could you help us out? I said, yeah, sure. Hep, hep, hep. What do you want to do? We want to improve kids' health. I go, can we narrow that down a little bit? They focus on asthma. Asthma. That reduced the dropout rate because kids weren't running to the emergency room all the time. Suddenly, their work fit into the mandate of the superintendent. They weren't fired. More important, it was liberating. It opened up the role of what they could do to improve health. Linda Delaney works with me also to keep minority kids away from tobacco in Arkansas. She serves as a critical friend to 18 or 19 different grantees around the state. I'll come back to her in a minute. This is all there is to empowerment evaluation. 3 steps. That's it. You help people come up with a mission, take stock of where they are, prioritize their key activities, rate high, medium, low, say what the evidence is. Use that to shape your plans out for the future. That's it. That's why this is global. It's simple. All of us can do this. We share the tools. They could be cartoons. They could be dots. They could be roadmaps. They could be statistics. They could be stories. We share them, what kind of tools they can use. As you can imagine, by the end of my presidential address, I had some people thinking, that is fantastic. Best thing since sliced bread. Wonderful. Why did it take you so long? But anyway, others hated every word I had to say. I'm giving evaluation away. There were ad hominem comments at me, not at the approach, not at empowerment, but me personally. The editors had to jump in the literature to slow them down from that kind of activity. It was brutal. I realize now, many years later, as I reflect on it, we were going through a paradigm shift. And we were just in the middle of it and didn't know. That's why it was so disruptive. I think one of my colleagues really nailed it when he summarized what was going on. Fetterman et al. Have nailed their thesis to the door of the cathedral. Now the question is, how tolerant is the establishment of dissent? Keep in mind, I was a lot taller then. Let's fast forward 30 years later. I want to focus on one more principle for empowerment evaluation. Did you do it? Accountability, outcomes. We are now operating in 17 countries, from Australia to Ethiopia, Nepal to New Zealand. It's been a global journey. I was the director of evaluation in the School of Medicine, and we used empowerment evaluation to transform the curriculum and also to get through accreditation. It was statistically significant. The language of power here was statistics. Another project we have is a $15 million project to bridge the digital divide in communities of color, sponsored by HB, Hewlett-Packard. We had many different groups. One was the Tribal Digital Village. They built the largest unlicensed wireless system in the country and a digital printing press using empowerment evaluation. This picture is me with my students, my graduate students, video conferencing with Native Americans in San Diego. That picture is worth $15 million to HP because of the face validity. They could see the outcome they had in mind. So the language of power could be statistics, it could be a picture. Just know the audience. I work in a lot of impoverished areas throughout the United States. This is not just economic empowerment, this is academic distress. In other words, the schools are failing. We help turn those around, once again, using empowerment evaluation, and not some general criteria through standardized test scores. But let me put a face on what we're talking about. This is the face of empowerment. This is the face of self-determination. When you are told you have failed, when you are told that you are in academic distress, that stigma is almost impossible to emerge from. Almost impossible. This is what they did. I served as a coach, facilitator. They did it. They got out of academic distress and reached academic success and even blue ribbon status. This is the face of success and empowerment. It's the human face. As I said, I'd come back to tobacco. We do a lot of anti-tobacco projects. This one also, I want to give you a perspective. Tobacco is the single most preventable cause of disease, disability, and death in the United States and the world. Smoking kills more people than alcohol, AIDS, car crashes, illegal drugs, murders, and suicides combined. We're trying to turn that around. And the language of power here is money. What a shocker, right? That's the one that speaks. Showing how much they're saving by keeping kids away, minority kids in particular, away from tobacco. ROI. Let me mention two more projects and I'll stop. This is an important one right now that we're doing at this very moment. We're trying to use empowerment evaluation to eliminate tuberculosis in India. India, you know, if you're familiar with tuberculosis, it's preventable and curable, but it's still in the top 10 of the causes for death globally. Unfortunately, India has like 27% of the burden. It's phenomenal. USAID is sponsoring us to work with individuals who had tuberculosis, and then we can help them become advocates through rights-based training. And they can serve as advocates not just in the community, but to turn the healthcare system around so that they're more sensitive to those concerns. We're also working throughout the United States with Feeding America, with food banks throughout the United States, using empowerment evaluation. If you're not familiar with this, 34 million people, including 9 million children, are suffering from, basically, food insecurity in the United States. So we're working with them to try to turn that around, have them more in control of assessing themselves. So it's not poundage we're talking about anymore. We're talking about reaching people, specific people in need. None of this is possible without having leaders. Tom is a vice president of Feeding America. He's an advocate for the system for empowerment evaluation in Feeding America and throughout the country in food banks around the country. Amrita and Kachina are leaders as change agents trying to reform how USAID is thinking about a grassroots efforts of changing things that have not been working from a policy perspective top down. Bottom line, power in the hands of people. Most effective produces meaningful and sustainable outcomes. Traditional evaluation is done to people. It's time to do it with, for, and by people. I urge you to evaluate yourself. And if you are like me, and some of this makes sense in the morning, try it. Thank you.